I got to ask you, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh man, that's crazy. Ah, that's insane.
What would Steve order?
I mean, I like everything on the menu.
They're good sandwiches.
Mm-hmm. I see what you did there.
What's going on, Opecast? Today I have a special guest, Steve Ewing. Now, you may have seen him around town, whether he's performing, he's serving up hot dogs. Obviously, he's probably at a gym or with his family and so much more. And so, Steve, welcome to Opecast.
Thanks for having me on the show, man.
So I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last few years, but to those who do not know who Steve is, this is the very first time. Maybe they don't know the urge. Surely my audience knows Steve's Hot Dogs. But if they don't know that, who is Steve Ewing? And let's talk about you two.
I am the lead singer of The Urge. We've been a band for about 35 years now here in St. Louis, and we've done a ton of touring nationally, worldwide, and we released 8 records, 3 of which were major label records, and we have 4 top 200 singles and 1 top 10 single.
Wow.
So that's the Urge side of things, you know. So
Yeah.
of course, you know, I'm the owner of Steve's Hot Dogs as well. But yeah, that's me first. My first thing is music, you know. So I started doing that right out of high school.
Yeah.
And you know, I parlayed my way into food because it was another second gig I could do while I'm performing. So I could perform at night, and then I could, you know, make myself a little lunch spot that I could have another little thing during the day to do.
So kind of going back to growing up here in St. Louis, you know, what inspired you to really dive into the music scene? And I read somewhere that the Police inspired you, and so let's talk about that.
Oh yeah. So a lot of the bands from that era, the Police, the Clash, and even before that, I was into Prince and Earth, Wind and Fire and the Isley Brothers and stuff like that. So music has always been a huge thing in my household with my parents. My mom was a recording artist, you know, when she was younger. So it's always been a very big thing in our household.
Yeah.
But my whole idea of being in a rock band happened in high school. You know what I mean? I just started being exposed to all kinds of other music, and I'm like, man, I really want to be in a rock band. Mm-hmm. And to me, Prince was like that gap, like where he was like gap between like R&B and rock, whatever. So I mean, like this is like what I want to be. So
did you dress like Prince back then?
I did not.
You didn't? Okay.
I did. That wasn't my thing. But I was just started getting exposed to a lot of different stuff. Like the Police was one of my big influences back then because they mixed a lot of things: punk rock, pop, reggae, ska. They were mixing all that together, and I didn't know what a lot of that was until I heard that. I'm like, man. So I started digging into everything else. I'm like, man, I want to do all of that. So in high school, I was sophomore. I knew some guys that had a band. There was like 4 bands at Webster, where I went to Webster Groves. It was like 4 bands. It was like a bunch of kids was playing in bands. So I'm like, I want to do that. And these guys had called The Urge. They would practice by my house. When I walked home from school, I would hear them practicing in the drummer's bedroom.
Yeah.
I'm like, they sound pretty cool, and I just didn't even think about it. And then I knew the drummer's sister, and she's like, you know, they're looking for a singer. And she knew that I sang in the choir and I do all that kind of stuff, whatever. So she's like, you should go talk to my brother. They're looking for a singer. So
were you a shy kid back then, or like were you like outgoing, shy, or was it like when you got the mic in front of you?
I wasn't shy. That's for sure. But I was an athlete, and like sports was my thing. So I really wasn't putting a whole lot of effort into music. I was way into it, but I was playing baseball, and I was a wrestler too. So sports was my thing.
Yeah.
And then, man, I went to meet the guys. We had a practice, and I was like hooked. This is like so cool. And then we played our first show. We played at a VFW hall out in Baldwin. And I was junior in high school, man. The place was packed, and people went ape shit. And I'm like, man, I want to do this. I was hooked like that.
Yeah. How did you guys promote shows back then?
Flyers, big time flyers. that's kind of was the only way to promote it, was either word of mouth or flyers. So there was kind of an art to making flyers.
Mm-hmm.
Like our drummer was the artist in the band, so he spent like hours making flyers, like hand drawing flyers and putting stuff together. And then you go to Kinko's, make copies, and you hand them out. So we would spend a lot of hours, stapling flyers on telephone poles, and that's just what you did.
That was before Canva too.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Before Canva, before social media. Jason and I, the producer, Dante, myself, we always talk about Canva, and it's like,
Canva's so awesome.
Man, but like you guys had to draw it. You had to man.
Somebody had to do the illustration. And if there was other elements, they'd have to actually paste it by hand, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
so that very first show, you felt the energy. What was that like adrenaline rush?
Yeah, it was like instant gratification. It was instant, like, you're here, man. Like
doing something right.
Yeah, it was like that. Like the feedback was instant. So I'm like, man, this is what I'm talking about right here. Mm-hmm. This is what it's hard to describe it or put it in words, but the feeling I got from it was immediate, and I'm like, I knew it was something I wanted to do. So then I got really serious about it. The rest of the band got serious about it. Mm-hmm. That's cool, and that's rare, and I think that's what makes a band go, is if you have at least a few other guys in the band that also feel the way you do.
Yep.
And so, in this particular band with the Urge, we all really were passionate about it. So
it's a team. It's like you're all buying in. You all see the potential.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Versus like, and it sounds like you guys all just kind of like knew your role.
Yeah.
Kind of like let's say a basketball team, the point guard, the center. You guys
Correct.
know what you can do, how you can help. Mm-hmm. We all have bad days. Where you can pick up.
Yep.
So during that time, how was the St. Louis music scene? Obviously nowadays, for the people listening, watching, we have all these music venues, things like that, and we have things like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. How was it back then to book shows and then even get your music
right
out
now? You have a lot. You have a lot of venues. You have a lot of ways to promote, a lot of ways to get yourself in front of people. Mm-hmm. Then, like in the late 80s, early 90s, you really had a handful of venues, and it was really competitive getting into those venues. Mm-hmm. So, and the club owners knew that, so it was like, well, let's see how you're doing this week and see if you're stepping up your game, then we'll give you a chance or we'll give you a slot.
Yep.
It's almost like, you ever seen that movie Purple Rain?
Yeah.
Where everybody's competing to get that gig. So it was like that. And like a good handful of the venues in St. Louis, bands were coming up, but you couldn't just go in there and play. It was like you had to prove yourself to go in there. It was real competitive. So like if you started slumping, they wouldn't book you in there anymore.
Yep.
And so by having that, you create this community of bands that are into it together, but also competing at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's cool, and it just brings everybody up. Everybody's like gets super tight. Everybody gets really good at what they're doing, and man, if you put 3 or 4 of them bands together, it's gonna be dynamic, dude. It's gonna be awesome. So that's how the scene was, like late 80s, early 90s. We got lucky. I think it was like 93 or something like that. The modern rock format kind of emerged, and we got the point. We got a radio station.
That's awesome.
So now all this music that we were playing, which was totally like underground or alternative stuff that you wouldn't hear on the radio, you're starting to get a little bit of that play now. So
mainstream.
So yeah, so it was like, oh shit, people are actually gonna listen to this stuff.
Yeah.
Because all you had was like Keishi. That's pretty much all you had.
And if you didn't fit into that mold, you just weren't on the radio.
And it was, that was like that was the big time. Keishi was big time. There was no local music on there. Mm-hmm. So you did have KDHX, which was a new radio station back then. So it had only been around for a handful of years at that point.
Now you mentioned 1993. There's a video of you from 1992. We kind of talked about it off camera at Mississippi Nights. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen the T-shirts, and I don't want to be like one of those people that have let's just say I'm 16, I have a Led Zeppelin shirt, and I've never listened to their music, but I like the design. I've never been to Mississippi Nights. I've been on the Landing. But let's talk about that era in St. Louis. Like, how was it, one, for you to attend shows, but then also you were performing there as well?
Sure. Mississippi Nights was like the premier mid-sized venue in St. Louis. So it held about 1,000 to like 1,300 people. So, if you had a Nirvana after their first record came out, they were just on their way up.
Yep.
That's where they would play at. So you got to see everybody.
Like Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, the biggest acts in the world all played Mississippi Nights on their way up. And so you just got to see everyone there. And so we saw so many shows, and it was all ages, so you could go there as a kid. And it was, and you're almost like this close to these artists. So it was a really awesome place to see shows. And
how much were tickets back then?
Like, so you could probably see a show, like, I have my ticket stubs for like a lot of stuff. You could probably see the Chili Peppers like when Mother's Milk came out, so that would have been early 90s. You could probably see them for $15, 15 or 20, something like that.
I don't think you could see them now.
Yeah.
Below $300 at a festival or something. Yeah.
And that was generally how a lot of the concerts were priced at Mississippi Nights. That was the price point for it.
Yeah.
You were seeing a band emerge.
It's kind of like the pageant now. It's like I feel like you're within that maybe 25 to 65 range.
Yep. So the pageant is pretty much taking the place of Mississippi Nights in St. Louis. Pretty much similar size-wise.
Do you ever go back and watch that video of you on YouTube? I don't know who uploaded it. I don't think it was you.
No, I didn't upload it. I've seen
you've had the dreads and
quite
everything.
a few of them because people just keep sending them to me. Like, remember that? And like, yeah.
Man, I respect that era too, because once again, different time. It wasn't like everyone just had their smartphone. It was like
it was print and radio. So we had the Riverfront Times back then was like that thick.
Yeah.
So I mean, like you'd open it up, and there was tons of listings for bands, but you had the Mississippi Nights column. And everyone would just go straight there to see who was playing. Look that up. If you look up that Mississippi Nights column, everybody was in that column. Like everybody played. Every week there was like, oh my God, look who's playing at Mississippi Nights. So you would go there first, see who's playing. So if you played at Mississippi Nights and you had a following, everyone knew about it because they would go straight there and look at it.
Or it's like if you wanted to go experience a show for the first time and you're like, you know what, let me go to Mississippi Nights, and all right, on this date I'm gonna go discover this artist for $15.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's like that's what kind of like nowadays, like here in St. Louis we have a lot of music festivals, and so sometimes I'll just be like, who's this person? I'll go pop in and and see watch them perform, and then after that, like I'm a fan.
And then you're hooked. Yeah. That's a good thing about festivals these days is you can hear about something and you can immediately go look it up. You can get on Spotify, check out their songs, get on YouTube, check out their videos and stuff. You can immediately kind of get an idea.
How does that feel as an artist, like in the comparison? Because it's like I was talking to Murphy Lee, and I mentioned this on a recent episode with Brock Seals, but like Murphy Lee talked about, like now he's an independent artist, opposed to being under that major record label. Like how is it from your end? Like were you guys part of you've been part of a major record label, right?
Two.
So
the first two major ones came out on Epic Immortal, Sony. And then we put out Too Much Stereo in like 2000, 2001, and that was with Virgin Records. So 3 major label releases, and the rest have been independent. There's like 4 before that, and then another couple independent releases after that.
And so as an artist, or for someone on the outside looking in, like what's the difference? So like you release some on your own, so that's probably like, you're going to the studio, you're paying for your own studio time.
Correct.
The major record label, they're essentially investing in you as a business.
They're making the investment, yeah.
Gotcha. And so then they own the rights to the songs, or you guys like negotiate all that?
They own the masters.
Gotcha.
That was a record deal back then. Deals are different now. But back then they made the investment on the recording and they own the masters to it. So
now let's talk about when you started branch outside of St. Louis. So you were able to travel. You were part of different college festivals. What was that like when you showed up to the first college campus and you're this guy. You actually, the Urge is this group from St. Louis. You're walking to this campus. I think it was in Illinois, is what I read. One of the first ones, and you were accepted by all the students.
Yeah, the college shows were hit and miss back then because it was one of the only ways for an alternative band like us coming up to get some exposure. Outside of major venues was to hit colleges. So when we saw bands like REM and all them like getting big by just playing colleges, that was the way to do it. So we started trying that. I'd say some campuses were into it and some weren't.
Yeah. Depending on where, yeah.
But that's just the nature of the music, So it was cool. It was just another way to get out there and promote. And if you played in front of 400 people and most of them didn't like it, fine. If you had 10 on a college campus, that ends up being 10 people that are going to come see you when you play at your major venue. So like we used to play in Carbondale, Illinois a lot. Turns out a lot of them kids were coming from Chicago. So, all the years we played in Carbondale and all those college kids, when the Urge would go headline in Chicago, it'd be packed with tons of kids that went to college in Carbondale because they saw us there. And so Dave Matthews was another band that learned that by playing tons of college campuses and college bars and really making that connection. And when you start playing major cities, those kids travel. They go see you.
What was that like? What's that feeling as an artist that these people are traveling just to see you? And obviously now it's been over many decades that people are still coming to see you. But what does it feel like?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, that the work paid off. You did the work and it paid off, and you made a connection. It's like you want to make that connection. You want to have an audience, and so it just feels good that you've done it and been successful at it.
Yep. Now let's talk about when you started a tour. I read about you going to Red Rocks, and how was your first tour? What was that like?
The first tour was in a van, and our manager at the time, which was Pat Hagen, who runs the pageant now, he was our manager, and he put us out on like 3 weeks. We went out, and most of it was Midwest, and we were heading east out to the East Coast. And it was grueling because we were in a van, and you're eating sandwiches and stuff in the van, like
hot dogs.
So you don't really have any money, but it was so much fun. Once again, I got hooked. I'm a road dog, so I love being on the road. Even in the worst of conditions, I enjoy being out there. Just because now you get to go every single night. You're in a different city. And somebody put that together for you. Like, you had a manager or somebody put you out there on the road. And so it's your job to go out there and do it. But, man, it was cool to be in different cities every night.
Now, you said you went out to the East Coast. How was it going from the Midwest to the East Coast?
I mean, it's different. Like, traveling from here, through Indiana, Ohio, all that, heading out. It's pretty much the same, whatever, but it was totally eye-opener when you get to like New York, New Jersey, and all that.
Were they more receptive of your, like, between obviously the Midwest, with amongst like Kansas City, let's say Omaha, Chicago, you guys had a really good following, but then like did you see more people, engaging with your music on the East Coast or West Coast? Like, how was that because I feel like right now, even with music overall, the West Coast has its sound, its own vibe,
Right.
The East Coast has its own sound, especially in like New York.
Yeah. We found that on both coasts, like people were very receptive. Upon first seeing us, without knowing who we were, like they were at a show, we made tons of fans, like pretty fast on both coasts, so it was cool to see that too. One of the cities that really took off for the Urge, outside of St. Louis and Kansas City, was Atlanta. So Atlanta was huge for us. We went down there and we were playing some shows early on. Just get in the van. Sometimes we would just head down to Atlanta and play a couple shows for the weekend. People started picking up on what we were doing like that. We went down there and played a venue that held about 300 people. there was maybe like 100 people showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time we played, it was full. It was sold out. The radio station at Georgia Tech, which at the time was the largest non-commercial FM station in the country.
Wow.
So they started playing the Urge music, and then just like that, we were on the big festival, and that's how we met 311, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, I lost my train of thought there for a second because I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, you said no commercials. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, so it's a college station, which is on Georgia Tech's campus.
Do you guys still perform in Atlanta?
It has been years. It's been a while since we've been down there.
I think there's a city winery down there.
There is. There's all kinds of stuff down there.
I only thinking because the last time I saw you perform was at the city winery,
mm-hmm.
which I do remember. You said you guys, what was it? You guys never thought you'd be drinking wine at an Urge show.
Well, I did an Urge song. I did what did I play?
Or an Urge. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, it was.
I played like something that was like fast and heavy, and people were totally into it. And I'm like, it occurred to me that none of these people would have ever thought back in the day that they would be seeing me playing this song while sitting at a table sipping wine.
Sipping wine, yeah. I think it was like that was the night that I went on YouTube and I'm like, okay, let me really do my research.
Mm-hmm.
Now you said you connected with 311, and did you guys go on tour for a few years?
Yeah. So after we met, it was a big festival in Atlanta. We met there and we hit it off as just buddies. We admired what we were doing,
mm-hmm.
and we just hit it off as friends. Had started drinking together and hanging out, and then we said let's tour together. And very shortly after that, we got on some tours with them, and then we stayed on the road with them for a long time. We ended up hooking up with their agency.
Mm-hmm.
Stayed on the road with them for longer. And then
was St. Louis always your base when you were traveling? Like, was this still home, or did you move to another city? Like, how was that?
No, St. Louis was always the hub.
Gotcha.
Which is great because it's right in the middle of like
mm-hmm.
a lot. So from a logistics standpoint, it's awesome. You can pack up your van and you can hit Chicago, Memphis, Indianapolis, Memphis, and like what I said Memphis already. But you can hit Kansas City, all of that, and then a bunch of college towns in that area, and you could cover a lot of ground, a lot of people.
When you were traveling now with 311 or Incubus, Korn, any of the other bands, what were some of your favorite shows that you've done?
Gosh, a lot of the festivals, like I remember the Jayhawk Festival, which is in Lawrence. Yeah, that was fun. It only lasted like a handful of years. We played 2 of those, and they were just a blast. A lot of bands were just emerging at the time, so we were all kind of at this level of where we have records out and we have videos on MTV, but we're just getting our career started.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a whole festival, just bands like that. So it was just so cool. And it was on a college campus, so they were they're college kids and they're excited about all this new music.
Yeah.
One of the other killer shows was when we played Red Rocks with 311.
Mm-hmm.
Someplace where it was on my bucket list of places to play at.
It's beautiful.
And it was not a letdown. It was awesome. The place was crazy.
How is it like for you to perform looking up? So like I've seen Stevie Wonder, and then I saw Snoop and Wiz there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're up there in the mountains and you're looking out, you see the city skyline, you have all the stars,
mm-hmm.
the rocks, but you're out there performing, you're looking at the rocks. Like how is it performing there? How's the acoustics? Like what do you think?
It sounds great up there, believe it or not. It sounds really good up on that stage. And in the moment when I'm playing, that audience to me just looks like another audience.
Yeah.
But when you like step back, like before the show, after the show, you're like, man, look at this place.
I'm performing here.
You know what I mean? So it's, without even playing the show, just being there, it's an amazing place. It's like they made a concert venue that cut it out of a mountain. So here's what's cool. When you're in the dressing rooms and back,
mm-hmm.
you're in the mountains, so there's like literally rocks coming out of the wall back there.
You can't you could try to replicate it at a Disney World or whatever, but
you wouldn't
can't
be able to do it.
Get the real thing.
Mm-mm.
Well, it's kind of like a transition into a few of your bands because I said I saw Stevie Wonder there,
mm-hmm.
which was amazing, and you casually brought out Usher.
That's awesome.
Just casually, hey guys, my friend Usher's here.
I think with that dude, wherever he goes,
Yeah.
there's some dope guest musician because he's Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder, yeah.
So it's like, man, can I jump on with you tonight? So I think people just can't wait to jump out with Stevie Wonder, man. Yeah.
Stevie, if you're listening, Steve Ewing, Master Blasters.
I'm all about it.
So now you're known, obviously, there's Steve Ewing Band, Steve Ewing Duo, the Urge, which we've talked about. We'll talk a little bit more about. But then you have the Master Blasters.
Correct, yeah.
So to those who don't know, what's the Master Blasters?
That is a Stevie Wonder tribute that we put together like 4 years ago. And then we just really kind of started getting serious about it the last couple of years. But it was just an idea Connor Lau had, guitarist, and he was like, hey, man, we should do some Stevie Wonder songs. And I'm like, man, that's some crazy stuff. I don't know, man.
It's a lot of pressure, Stevie.
And so, but he and a guitarist and drummer had already been kind of like toying around with it.
Yeah.
And so I came to practice and we went over a handful of songs. I'm like, man, I think we can give it a shot. And then we booked a show at the Chesterfield Amphitheater because they have this tribute
for
series.
your first show.
Yeah.
How many? That's like what? Still 2,000-3,000 people.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm sorry, you were very casual with that one, man.
And yeah, so and I don't know the exact what the attendance is out there, but it was a full house, and it's Stevie Wonder music, so it's
Everyone knows
immediately everybody knows all the music, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a party, and like, man, I think we can do this. So started really getting serious about doing at least once or twice a year and really making a thing out of it.
Man, I saw it, and I saw it when you were at Del Mar Hall. I wanted to go recently when you were at Duck Room, but I had a prior commitment. But man, if you guys haven't seen it, you have to. I mean, just
The band is sick.
I mean, my wife and I, we were like, that almost felt like we were watching Stevie again.
Yeah.
Like the music, and I mean, I don't know how you keep up with all the lyrics, with all the different songs you have.
There's
and
a lot.
Stevie's.
It's a lot.
I love Signed, Sealed, Delivered.
Yeah.
Now, what's your favorite Stevie Wonder song of all time?
That's a good question. I really like, there's a song called As,
Oh, yeah.
which we play that one. It's super challenging, but I love it. It's got one of them this dirty Stevie feels to it. Like some of Stevie stuff is real poppy and bubbly,
Yep.
and some of it's just deep, and that's one of those songs that's real deep.
Like when you're learning, because you have to learn the lyrics, you have to learn the notes. Are you like just taking in word for word what it actually means? Because I think sometimes, like for me as a common listener, I'm just singing a song.
Sure.
And then, 10 years from now, I'm like, oh my God, I was saying that,
Yep.
But are you like, how's your process of learning a new song like that?
That's one way of trying to learn words and phrasing, is to break it down like that, into like, what is he talking about? So that's one way of doing it. And I use that, a lot. With Stevie, sometimes you know what he's talking about, but with him, it's so technical. So a lot of the time, I'm working on the technical aspect of what Stevie's doing, because he's one of a kind. You know what I mean? Technically, very difficult to do.
Have you been able to meet him yet?
No, that would be like insane.
Yeah. It can happen.
That would be insane. Yeah.
Have you ever met someone that like I've spoken to Joe Edwards a few times, and that man has photos with everybody. But he's like, we're all people. But like, I still feel like sometimes we meet some people and we're like, wait, that just happened. Like I think it was last November, I met Ryan Coogler, who directs Black Panther.
That would have been dope. I would have probably freaked out.
My wife said I was him. It was literally at a dessert buffet at Disney World or
Nice.
Disneyland. And my wife's like, that's Ryan Coogler. I was like, no, Black Panther just came out this weekend. Like he would not be here. And then it like clicked. And then you see that like wearing the freshest stuff. I mean, still look like a normal person. And I was like, hey, are you Ryan Coogler? He's like, yeah, that's me. I was like, oh, dude, love what you're doing. Like, but it was like a weird thing. But like, have you ever met somebody that like you admired or you respect and you're just like, wait, that just happened?
Yep. It's been a few times, but one that comes to mind is we were doing a Point Fest out of Riverport. I'm like, I still call it Riverport because it changes names a lot. But
Keel Center, we're there.
Right. we were playing with Big Audio Dynamite, which is Mick Jones from The Clash. And I'm a huge Clash fan, and he's in the dressing room next door, and I'm like, I'm not going to go bother him, whatever. I'm going to leave him alone.
Yeah.
And he came to our dressing room.
Yeah.
And he came in there right after we played, and he's like, man, your fucking band rocks. And that was like one of the greatest moments ever right there. It's like, I'm cool. And we had a similar situation when we were in Portland, Oregon, and it was The Urge and Body Count. So it was Ice-T. And he came up and gave us a big old shout and a compliment, dude. That was awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, I've made it.
Dude, it's Ice-T. That was fucking awesome.
What was it like, though, because you're meeting these people, you're traveling around the country and around the world, and then St. Louis was always that home. Like, when you came back home, did you feel like, okay, I can unwind, I could just be Steve, or were you being spotted all over town? Like, I mean, we don't have TMZ or anything in St. Louis. But...
Right. No, I mean, yeah, you definitely get spotted because you're part of the community.
Yeah.
So you grew up here, so like people just know you from even before you were in a band, but... But yeah, you get spotted, especially the longer you start, you're doing stuff around the area. Definitely people
MTV, like HBO,
all that stuff. Yeah, it's cool, and it's your hometown, so it doesn't feel weird at all. It's just these are people you know.
Now, when back then you were on HBO, what year was that? Was it in late '90s?
It would have been maybe 90, 97, 98, something like that.
I heard that was a really, really big deal that The Urge was on there performing at that time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think a lot of people watching or listening knows about MTV, but it's like even HBO, it's like you all were putting St. Louis on the map.
Sure.
So how was that like whenever you were traveling, you were telling people, I'm from St. Louis. Like how were those conversations?
Well, it was my thing. I always started the show like, what's up? We're The Urge. We're from St. Louis, Missouri. So that was the whole thing, is to like, we're not from LA. We're not from Chicago. We're not from New York. We're from St. Louis. And so that was, I guess that's my pride, whatever. But I'm like, I'm letting you know that we're from the Midwest, whatever. So that was my thing, to let people know that. And then I think people found that endearing. They're like, oh man, like, and made us approachable too. So I think that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Let's talk about what's the difference between the Steve Ewing Duo and the Steve Ewing Band?
So with the duo, it's just me and Adam, my guitarist, and we do a lot. I mean, on any given night, we're playing about 40 songs. So a lot of stuff, mixture between like some of my favorite soul songs, ska, reggae, punk stuff from that era. And then, of course, we play like a handful of Urge songs in our set. And with the band, it's pretty much the same thing, except we just have all the musicians.
Yeah.
So we have the drummer and the bass player and all that stuff, whatever. So, but I can go out and do the same music with one of those two options.
Gotcha. Because I looked on your website, I think a few months back, and I was like, okay, what's the difference, between them? And I've been able to see a few different versions. I've seen The Urge. I think I saw the Steve Ewing Band at Mardi Gras.
And the band was at City Winery too.
Band was at City Winery. Yeah. Which if you guys haven't seen a show, you have to go see them. How do you keep up the energy for about a good hour and a half, 2 hours? How do you do that?
I'm going to try to stay in shape.
Yeah.
I try to do that. So that's part of what we do. I've never done it any other way. Like, so when I jump on stage and the music starts, that's just what I do. Yep. I just kind of start getting hyped up about it, and that's part of the show, and I don't really have any other way to do it. But in order to do that, I have to try to keep myself in like pretty decent physical condition.
Do you listen to other people's music before you get on stage, like to get hyped, or you listen to your?
I know some, like when we do Urge shows, like we have a powwow in the back, and we rock out to some stuff. Yeah.
How much different is it performing now with the Urge today versus 1987?
Sure. Back then we would have been on tour, so there's a difference between playing one-offs and being on tour. When you're on tour, you're like a machine. You are super tight. You are
just wired.
You're just really, really, really good. Like, because you're in that flow. So when we're doing one-offs like we do now these days, it takes a little bit more to like get warmed up,
Yep.
to get in the mode, to get yourself in, with your game face on. The outcome is the same. It's just what it takes to get there is a little different.
Now, you're in really good shape. How do you keep in shape? What's the workout regimen?
I just try to train. I get up super early so I can get it done and be consistent with it. And then the rest of the day just kind of does, falls into place. But if I can get up early, I do kind of a traditional, like right now I'm doing like a 4 or 5 day split where I just do like legs one day. I'll do back one day, pushing one day, whatever. And then one day I'll have like sprints and things like that. So I try to just do that, real simple, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Even when I'm training for a bodybuilding show, my split is still pretty, meat and potatoes is still pretty simple.
How many hot dogs do I have to eat a day to get as fit as you, man?
Just have yourself a couple a day and you be cool.
Hey, that's well, I was gonna say that's the secret sauce, but you also have sauce.
I do.
That's a secret
we have our honey
sauce?
chipotle sauce, which is we make it in house. It's really good.
And then, do you take a midday nap if you work out in the morning? Is that how that works?
I am definitely a proponent of taking naps. I'm down with
Okay.
naps. Yeah, I definitely have my naps.
I'm 32, man. I'm starting.
Yeah.
I'm at that nap age that I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna enjoy this thing tonight, I gotta take like a 30-minute nap.
There is nothing wrong with a nap. Yeah.
Yeah, my niece, she's 5. She takes naps.
Yep.
Why did they stop that in school?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like you get to a certain point in life, they're like, oh, you can't do naps.
I don't know.
I think Silicon Valley allows naps now.
Because kids don't get enough sleep anyway, so might as well just let them have a nap.
True.
Adults don't get enough sleep, so let them have a nap.
There we go,
There's
guys.
places in the world where they already do that.
Yeah, like it's
in
the
Europe
cultural.
they have the siestas. Yeah.
We're working on it. We're working on it, guys. If you're an employer hiring on Indeed, LinkedIn, or anything else, and you're looking for new talent, this is what you do.
offering the nap.
Now let's kind of dive into Steve's Hot Dogs. How did that come about?
Steve's Hot Dogs came when I moved back. I was living in LA for a while. I moved back to St. Louis, and with the Steve Ewing Band and the Steve Ewing Duo, all of a sudden I was playing a ton, like upwards to like 200 shows a year.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is great. Let me see if I can start another business during the day because I'm playing at nighttime. Maybe I can start another small business during the day doing some food. And the food the idea came from after one of our shows. We walked out of the venue and there was thousands of people in the street. We're on St. Charles Main Street.
Yeah.
So back in the day, like all the Lindenwood kids would go down there and it would like lit out in the streets. And there was no food. There was nothing to eat on
No
the
late
street.
night snacks.
I'm like, man, what's wrong with this picture? There's no food here. And so I'm like, it would be great if somebody had a cart out here, a hot dog cart. You could just feed these people right off the bat. And so that's where the idea started from. And we kept playing there, and I kept thinking, man, somebody needs to do some food out here. So I looked at Adam like, dude, I'm going to go buy a cart. And he looked at me like, dude, I think you're crazy.
Yeah.
He didn't say that, but he was like, okay, dude, all right.
You're gonna go perform, and then you're gonna go sell hot dogs.
He didn't think I would do it, and so I bought it, and immediately I hooked it up to the back of my truck, and
With your all the instruments.
with all the stuff. Yeah, we played a show. I think we were in like Festus or something. It was a little small festival. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna plug it up to the back of the truck and put it out there. And man, I jumped off the stage and started selling hot dogs, sold out of all the food like that. And I'm like, okay, I think this can work.
I'm onto something.
Yeah, I think this can definitely work. Yeah, so that's where the idea came from.
And then was the Tower Grove location your first location?
We had one on the hill. That's the original location. So I kind of quickly figured out that doing food at night is real hit and miss. Though while it was very cool on those nights, if it rained, things like that, it can be real hit and miss. And
Things
then,
you can't control.
correct. And then especially when the winter comes, you don't have as many days that you can actually sell the food. So I'm like, we need to get into a small shop someplace so we can do this year round and really develop the menu. And I found a place on the hill that I loved. It was this little cute shop. A friend of mine was running a bakery out of it. And I just bugged her, like, you sure you want to still be in business? And I think she was ready to be out of business.
Yeah.
And I just kept bugging her until she's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. You can just take over the lease. And then that's when we moved in, and that's Steve's Hot Dogs was born on the hill right there.
And then from there you went to Tower Grove and then now South Grand.
Yep. So within a couple of years, we had built a really big following. It's like on the weekends, man, there was a line out the door. So I'm like, oh man, maybe we should expand. And then I just kind of put that thought in the back of my mind. And then Steve Smith, who owns the Royale, and his partner came up to me and said, man, we're opening a place called the TikTok over in Tower Grove East. Would you want to be the food component next door? I'm like, that sounds really good. What's the rent like? And then the rent was really good, and I could go in there and do a lot of the work myself. So we just said, let's do it. So then I had 2 locations for a while, one on the hill, one Tower Grove East.
Then from there, Tower Grove East, that closed, I think. And then was it about a little over a year ago?
Yep.
You went to South Grand.
Yep. So I closed the hill shop. They were cannibalizing each other. So the one in Tower Grove started cannibalizing the hill business because it's so close.
Yeah.
So I closed that one and then just put everything into the Tower Grove one. And after about almost 7 years in business at that location, that's when we decided to close.
Yep.
And then we reopened, and then the pandemic hit.
Well, let's talk about the pandemic. Is that you all were feeding frontline workers, and then you also had was it like people can go buy a meal and then kind of like a pay it forward kind of thing?
Correct. Feed the people. That's our program.
Feed the people, and you still do that to the.
Still do it. Yep.
So, what inspired you to start that, and then what is that program for those who don't know?
So that program came out of a dire need for food quickly in the neighborhood. Everything is shut down. You only have a handful of restaurants that are still staying open. And you don't have a lot of food options for especially kids who are out of school.
Yep.
So it's like, man, we need to get some food out into the neighborhood now. So we just took whatever we had and started donating that. And then when we ran out, we started asking people to help us with that. So if you donate, we can make meals, whatever. This would make a good handful of meals that we can get out to some of the pantries in the area. And so that became how that started. Then we started to learn that our first responders, nurses, were pretty much working 24/7, and a lot of them literally couldn't leave to eat. So they were relying on people like us to bring food in for them, especially like enjoyable hot meals. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we did that, and we got a lot of love from that community because they felt like they needed it, and so that program was born out of a need. Really, the pandemic was insane, as we all remember. It was everything was just gone, shut down.
I think you guys helped define what community is in St. Louis, because you're like, you guys, were feeding the frontline staff and those who needed it, like you said, with kids. And it's like, you showed people like, hey, everybody can win. Everyone can, look out for each other.
Correct.
During
like
tough
if
times.
you're still working and you have income, you can also help provide as well. You know what I mean? So it's not just us. It's you can do that as well. And you can do it through us, or you can actually do it through a number of people who are dedicated to this. So we made a list of other restaurants in the area that were doing the same thing, and then we all kind of came together and formed this like little army of people getting food out.
I mean, it's I got started during the pandemic, and my focus was like, you know what, I have this $1,200-$1,500 phone and social media is free. Why not build a community and use social media to really like hyper focus and like localize it in the sense, because where were some of the big companies? Like, I wear Nike shoes, but where was Nike here in St. Louis, right? But
they're not going to be in your small area. You know what I mean? That's not their thing,
But it's like we localize a lot of things, and why not use the platforms? And so that's what I did. Now, I got to ask you, is a hot dog a sandwich?
In my opinion, yes.
All right.
At least the way we make it, yes.
Yes, okay. 'Cause it is. Now,
Yeah.
next question on top of that is, what's your favorite hot dog, let's say, menu item
Yeah, at Steve's.
at Steve's?
The bacon Jamaican.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I had, and that's when I met you because the Coming to America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I had a bacon Jamaican. I think you had a burger special during that time too.
Yep, because all the burgers were named after Eddie Murphy's characters.
So I had that, and then I went to go watch the movie, and I still have those flags in the poster.
Yes. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
So to continue talking about Steve's hot dogs, now you're in stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever thought you would see that day?
No, I didn't. In the back of my mind, I always thought, I think our food would go great in the stadium, but just really didn't have a way to get in there or a way to present it, or how do we do this? How do we even go about getting in there? You know, so I just didn't even pursue it. Gerard is the guy. Gerard Kraft is the guy who really, and the St. Louis City soccer team were the ones that really kind of saw it, and I think they saw it, but they wanted to put it out there with people, and so they did a whole social media thing where they asked the public like what restaurants should be in the stadium, and we came back the overwhelming like favorite to be in there.
Number one.
So I'm like, oh man, that was it. That was it. And we all had this feeling that once we would get in there and we were able to prove ourselves, that some other doors would open up for us, and that's exactly what happened.
So then I saw you guys at the Battlehawks game. Now Enterprise Center.
Enterprise, yep.
So it looks like you have 3 of the 4 teams.
That's right.
No pressure to other teams. If you're listening.
So yes, we would love to be at Busch Stadium too. That would be like just prestigious, and it would just be cool to just be in there for one.
Yeah.
And and we're selling hot dogs, and hot dogs go with baseball, so I think it would be awesome.
And that bacon Jamaican.
Yes.
So as we look forward to the future, here in a couple, I guess by the time this comes out, within a few days or within the next week, you have a show at the Pageant.
Correct.
And from my understanding, the Pageant is your favorite venue, not being biased because that's where this show is, but it's your favorite venue to perform at.
Correct. Yep.
And so since you're performing with the Urge on Friday, I believe that's the 22nd?
24th.
Or 24th, sorry.
Yep.
Friday the 24th. What can people expect from you and the Urge?
We're going to do a long set. So normally we do like 90 minutes, and maybe we'll have an encore. But for this one, we're going to do a little bit longer. We have so much music to play. So we're going to play a long set. We're going to add a few old songs that we haven't played in a while. And then we have a couple new things we're going to play. So, but yeah, the people are going to get the same crazy energy that we always put out for the show. And it's going to have that Christmas, Thanksgiving vibe to it. It's going to be nuts.
Man, I'm excited.
Yeah.
When I first heard about this, I was like, wait, what am I doing that day? All right, I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
And now you guys are partnering with, is it Ronald McDonald?
Ronald McDonald House, yep.
Okay.
And so Donnie from The Point is a big donator to that charity. And so we put all of it together, since all of our shows are promoted through The Point. We put that together, and that's a great charity. So we're going to be donating money to that, and Donnie will be helping us promote for that as well.
Any openers that we should be on the lookout for?
Sure. We have Wise Mary is going to be the first opener. They're from St. Louis, some young guys, and they're fantastic, and they're making some waves right now.
That's awesome.
And then some really good friends of ours that have been around for a while. They're called Tree 14.
Okay.
Tree 14. So it's they're like reggae and rock. It's awesome. I love it. Like stoner rock.
We can get down to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as you look for, let's talk about your legacy. What do you hope that your legacy, with everything you've done, including, the Urge, your family, the community, what do you hope the legacy of Steve Ewing will be?
I don't know. I guess I don't normally think of it that way. I just like pushing ahead, and I feel like I have great opportunities here in St. Louis, and so I take them. So in my mind, I just want to know that, like, after it's all been said and done, as I reached out and did, as much as I could for myself and the community, you know what I mean? So, like, while bringing the community up, like making myself happy and,
Yeah.
Enjoying myself. So that's what I want to remember when, maybe when I'm like 90 or something.
90. Still jumping on stage.
Yeah.
Probably crowd. Have you ever jumped in the crowd?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Oh man. Is that happening?
Not these days.
Not these days. Oh, yeah.
Too many lawsuits these days.
Oh, and hey, I have a good chiropractor. he'll get you good. Now, let's talk about the current music scene in St. Louis. There's so much talent. People like Metro Boomin, Big Boss Vet, obviously Sexy Red, and just so many other people putting St. Louis on the map.
It's great.
How does it feel, from the Urge side of things? You guys were there in the 80s. You got to see, your era. You got to see kind of the Lunatic, Chingy, Jaquan, and also, obviously seeing like Tina. Like, what are your thoughts as a musician on where we're at as a city?
I love it. It always seems like we have waves where it's like we have a wave of like musicians coming out of St. Louis that are hitting the national scene. And that feels really great, man. It just helps everybody else who's coming up. So now we have platforms for all the other artists that are kind of try to come up. So because the spotlight's on us, so it's nice. It's when that happens, it's awesome.
Is there something that the St. Louis music scene is possibly like missing? Maybe it's a record, like a bigger record label located here. Like,
I mean, it would be nice if there was, some major industry like that here in St. Louis, but there just traditionally hasn't been.
So that's an opportunity for someone.
It is
to build, kind of like with you and the hot dogs.
Yep, it is. It is an opportunity to build like music brands, and like why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now's the time.
Now, before I let you go, I always ask guests these two questions. The first one, words of wisdom. Now that could be for someone that looks up to you, hopes to follow your path, do the things you've done. Or it could just be someone that's listening and they could be going through a tough time. And so if you had to leave the listeners with words of wisdom, what would they be?
I would say whatever it is that you're getting into, whatever it is that you're passionate about, do it. And do it until just keep doing it. Even if you have to do it like on the side or, put it to the side, keep doing it. Because when you feel at that moment where it's like it's dying or nothing's happening, that might be the moment where like something connects, maybe you get a break. But really it's about just continuously doing it. If it's something you're passionate about, just keep doing it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, 3 guests, dead or alive, could be family, friends, celebrities, musicians, whomever. If they can join you for lunch at Steve's Hot Dogs, let's say you guys are in a booth. Who would you want to join you? Why? And what would you guys talk about?
Oh man, that's crazy. That's insane. I would say it would be all musicians.
Yep.
I would say it'd be cool to have Prince in the booth. It would be cool to have Sting in the booth. And it would be cool to have Chuck D in the booth.
Oh.
Could you imagine the conversation with like those 3? Like I wouldn't even want to. I don't even know what I would say. I would kind of hang back and say, what happens?
Bacon, Jamaican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But I so much of what like my view of the world was through musicians, through their words, like through their views.
Yep.
That's how I viewed the world. I think a lot of kids are like that. So those 3 would be awesome.
I wonder what they would order.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
The pairing, right? Well,
so you have to put that out there. Like, if you put these 3 together, what would they order at
these
Steve's
4?
Hot Dogs? Are these 4? Yeah.
And you can't order bacon Jamaican because that's your favorite. Everyone knows that. So then what would Steve order? What would his second order be? It probably changes depending on the season too. You're probably like, today I'm feeling this.
It does. I mean, I like everything on the menu. The base menu we created, and most of it's still there. So yeah, I love everything that's on that menu.
They're good sandwiches.
I see what you did there.
Well, Steve, I really appreciate your time. I admire what you're doing. You've done. The more I learn about you, I'm like, wait, what? Like this guy? Like it's awesome. It's amazing. And To everyone listening, I think it was over a year ago. I was like, hey man, I gotta get you on my podcast. And then it just happened this week, but it was like the podcast wasn't even around.
Right.
But it was kind of like you said, you get it and you just put it to the side.
But you put it out there, man, and here it is.
Yeah. So man, I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. And how can people follow you?
I'm at SteveEwingMusic.net, and then you can check out the shop at StevesHotDogsSTL.com.
Well, Steve, appreciate your time. And if you guys are listening still, which I know you are, make sure to go to the show. It's going to be on Black Friday. You need something to do with your family after Thanksgiving. You'll be jumping up and down, burning those calories from all the turkey, stuffing. And are you going to eat a lot the night before? Like how to...
I just eat regular.
There you go.
Like it's Thanksgiving, so I'm going to eat Thanksgiving dinner. There's no way around it. Yeah.
As a foodie, man, every day is my Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, well, Steve, I appreciate your time.
Right on, man. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
It's Foodie Friday, and today I'm here with the one and only Steve Ewing of Steve's Hot Dogs. Steve, when you're not performing, making hot dogs, traveling, being a family man, and everything else, bodybuilding and all that, where are you eating?
Oh man, so I like eating local. One of my favorite spots is on South Grand is Wei Hong. It's like a traditional Chinese place, and they have these awesome buns with these barbecue buns that I get all the time. So they're amazing. I go there, and my other favorite is Soul Taco. I love Soul Taco.
That's a good spot.
Yeah, big time. So I love how they fuse all that stuff together. It's just amazing.
But any other spots on South Grand?
Oh man, you talk about South Grand. Well, Lemongrass, which is next door to us, which is awesome. That's Vietnamese. Sheesh down the street is awesome. And of course, Terra Tacos, which is an all vegan taco joint, which is amazing. So yeah.
People sleep on vegan food.
South Grand has a ton of vegan food.
So when you're not eating at Steve's Hot Dogs, this is where you're eating?
That's where I'm eating.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for a full list, make sure to check out the post. Wait, yeah, I almost had that. I messed this up yesterday. For a full list, you can check out at Opecast the Pod and at STL Bucket List on Instagram. Eat up, St. Louis. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Opecast. Now, this wouldn't be possible without all of your support, my producer, Jason, my friends here at Tech Artista. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Follow us on Instagram at Opecast the Pod or TikTok. So until next time, peace.